They will walk through how to use your instance, and by instance I mean creating locations, adding users, and how the functionality works. The ordering piece is going to be somewhat similar. In the interest of time, does everybody want to watch me push through an order just to refresh on the ordering? Yes? Okay. These are the things I ask you. We are also putting out, at the same time as the annual buy this year, we're putting around our year-round ordering offerings. So like Staples, Quill, School Specialty, Gov Connections, CWG, M&J Technologies. I'm trying to go really fast. We've got a whole bunch of different offerings that you can order from at the same time. So I ask you to go ahead and look. You can be a savvier shopper now. I'm going to give you one quick example. Last year we had a 3M film. Schools in Nebraska ordered somewhere around 300 of these items. Annual buy is priced at $17.51, and you would get that directly to you in the same process. The pricing is roughly the same, almost dead on the exact same this year as it was to last year. But the year-round pricing on Staples is like $18, so 50-cent difference. But Staples also has a Staples branded product, exact same specifications, for $15.50. Okay, so you're going to have options now that you didn't have before. When we did the annual buy before, it was 3,000 items, and it was just those 3,000 items. Now you'll have the full palette of any of our contracts. And actually, since we built you all an instance, you all have a specific credential link into each one of our suppliers that takes you into their environment and actually gives you real-time pricing, and it actually tells you what product is actually available. So you'll know product availability, pricing, and you only have to log in once into our site, and it will default all the pricing through all of our catalogs for you. So you don't have to do the searching anymore, and you can actually cherry pick against the annual buy as opposed to a Staples or a Quill or a School Specialty contract. So you can find and order in quantities that are best for you. So we only sold binders in a case of 12 in the past. They're about $50 a binder, but maybe you only really needed 6 or 7, but you were going to buy them because that's the only way we sold them. Well, you can go to Staples now and you can order them. They're, I think, $5.50 or $6 per binder, so you can order them by binder. Also, through Quill or School Specialty or Staples, you can buy colored paper by the ream as opposed to a case. We were just talking about cases of colored paper where somebody might buy it just for one ream of Christmas red. And now you can just do that, get it 2 or 3 days as opposed to 3 months from now, and you're not taking up all that storage space as well. So
what about shipping charges?
Shipping charges will default in the agreement because you're actually getting this information directly from their website. To give you an idea of how expansive this project is, a major electronics company called Gov Connection, in their history they have done 200 punch-outs. This project alone represents 290 credentials. We are more than doubling what they've done. And the state of Nebraska is truly the only state that has a co-op that is offering a system like this that is as robust as this. This is the only system that's existing for a cooperative purchasing for a statewide effort. So that works just like this. So we're really excited about the opportunities that this is going to present to you. So I ask you as you go through it, and if you have questions or you need help, call me, call Brenda. We'll help you out. Shoot me an email. I've got plenty of road time. Hang on to these login credentials. They're for our training environment. So what I recommend to you after leaving today, go back, talk to your principal, to your superintendent, get an idea of coming off of this meeting, what you want to do at your school. Build that out into the training environment with just a couple of you and test it out to make sure that that practice is going to work for you before you build it out in the live environment. That way you can push out orders without worrying if you're actually ordering something. And you don't have to worry about breaking anything. You know, I can go back and fix anything that's done in this training environment. So I reset it before every training, so it's not a big deal. And then also, if you can't find something, if you go out there and you really wish that we carried something and we had an offering around it, let us know. Because the hope is that through your utilization, through your use, we can grow the catalogs in there from the 8 that we'll start with and then the annual buy ones to as many as possible to match the needs of the state. And just like the annual buy process where we drive pricing down because we vet vendors through one forum, we're hoping this website will act the same way for the schools in Nebraska. The vendors that go on the line and actually are willing to bid are the ones that are willing to provide the service, and they're willing to agree to terms and conditions, and they don't cherry pick our schools. They're willing to provide an equitable price. And that's what we want for everything around the state. The more you use this site at your school level, as a state, you'll drive prices down, and you will make vendors accountable to terms and conditions and bids through your utilization of the site, because if you don't buy from them, they will participate in this event, and it will make sure that the pricing is equitable for everybody. Okay? So, ready? Faster, slow down or stop. If you have a question, I guess that's the same sign. So, you could, again, my name is Kip, so if you want to yell out Kip for me to stop, or bald guy or whatever, that's fine too. So,
Kip, I was actually talking, did you tell them that the prices on co-op already include the shipping and handling? Okay.
the price that you'll see in the co-op catalog will be the price that you get. So essentially all of our catalogs, when you go to check out, you'll see the pricing that you'll get from essentially order to dock.
Will we still pay through the ESU or pay each company separately?
You'll pay to each company because that's a direct relationship. But we have to do that to be able to speed up the process for you. Because the fun thing is these suppliers, our website will do what's called POXML data transfer. So they don't have to enter their orders anymore either. The site actually throws it right into their manufacturer entering system.
What are the co-op buy dates again?
March 5th through April 25th.
You said the paper co-op is going to be in the list?
Yep, the paper will come at the same time as your other general supplies. June 1st, is the first delivery date for annual buy. You can order, if you're ordering from a year-round catalog, that product will be to you in about 2 or 3 days. Okay? One cool thing too about the system is if you're ordering from a year-round catalog, whoever's ordering that will be known in the system as the requester. The requester ends up becoming the ship to attention on the shipper's label. So anything other than the annual buy, because the annual buy they're going to aggregate your order and they're going to send it to you to be sorted out. But if you're ordering from our other year-round catalogs, whoever is listed as the requester on that order, so maybe it's a math teacher that you've given them access to the site and they're ordering from Staples, that package should show up with that math teacher's name on it, ship to attention. Because that would be the business practice. You check out Staples, Staples flips that requester's name as the ship to attention person, and on that box it will say your school name, ship to attention, Josie, math teacher. I don't know where I came up with Josie. Any other questions? All right, we're in good shape to go fast. I've drank a lot of Diet Mountain Dew and coffee. I will sign in here into the training environment. And we're going to go through just a simple order. I'm going to click on this catalog just because it's going to look this one will look more familiar. All right, so if you ordered last year, you're probably familiar with the look and feel of this, right? What we're looking at here is essentially a sampling of what the annual buy or the paper buy was last year. So if you wanted to just do the 400, 140, you could do that in your search field and it would bring up that item. Now you'll notice this year that the paper price will be a little bit more, but in the past you had to pay a drop ship fee. So this year you don't pay a drop ship fee, so the price that you get will be commensurate with the price last year. But I think it's somewhere around $26, but there's no additional fee for the drop ship anymore. So we'll go through, we'll order a couple of these items. When you're ordering, all you have to do is update the quantity field with the quantity that you desire, add it to the cart. Your cart will automatically populate with the quantity. You can click on this cart anytime to see exactly what you have in your cart. And if this is all we want to source, we can go ahead and check out. Say I want to go ahead and source something from CWG. If I had gone through and allowed pop-ups before. The system will actually allow you to go directly into CWG's website with our defaulted pricing, co-op contract pricing. So then you can search for any item that they carry. So let's say you need to get an external hard drive. And And then you could do any of the sort functions that you want. So maybe you're just looking for a real cheap one. That's really cheap.
Quality.
But you want quality, price highest? You can see Jolene saying, don't show them that faster.
No, I'm just kidding.
Alright. We will, so we'll just add a couple of these. Maybe we're going to get a couple of them for some faculty. For some reason I like the quantity 12 today. So now we can go ahead and check out, unless we want to continue to source against it. What it's going to tell me when I go to checkout is I have to transfer my shopping cart. So if I click on that button, now we see that our shopping cart on the co-op page will default now to 24. Essentially, the purpose behind that is so all of your data, all of the purchases that you make, whether it's our food program or our custodial program, because Cisco and AmSam will be on this as well, all of that data can be in the same place, so you can pull it by supplier anytime you want, so that you can see what you're spending on food. You can have a quick report on supplies, or you can have a report by teacher. So you can just kind of look and see what it is that you're doing and have all that data available in one place. Now, what this is called on the shop page where I went out to CWG, that's called a punch out. A punch out is where I said we get a credential for each school district with those suppliers. What we're working towards and what we hope to have by the annual buy is what's called a level 2 punch out. These are called catalogs, and all they are is a CSV file that we upload. What a punch out is just a direct link to the supplier. A level 2 punch out is essentially a direct link with the supplier with a CSV file embedded in it. So when you just do a general search against items, that just little catalog will pull and tell the system that even though it's an external website, that product is available on this contract, and then all you have to do is click on, there will be a See Price button. You can click on that See Price, and then you don't have to launch into an external website every time. You can just do a broad keyword search against everything we have. We're trying to implement all this stuff as fast as we can, so we're going to try to have everything level 2 by the time we open. Don't get mad at me if we don't. We're just working as quickly as we can, but in the future you'll be able to do just a keyword search. This year, if it's not pulling up a Staples or a Quill or something, that means we probably haven't gotten that level 2 credential yet. And we are moving towards it, so just to let you know, if you start doing keyword searches and you see that C price and you don't see it today in the training, that means we've moved that catalog to a level 2. And we'll do our best to communicate that out to you as we move along through the process. But that is the difference in the nuance, and that functionality is coming.
Kip, when you say you're gonna get the information out, is it gonna come to me and then I need to disseminate it to these guys, gals, ladies? Or are you gonna just send mass email out to the whole state?
I'm going to send it out through the ESU so the ESU can send it out so you don't get bombarded. Because you know what will happen is somebody, if it's statewide, there will at least be 5 people that want to do the reply all button. It's better with a smaller group of reply all, right? So yeah, we'll filter that information out through the ESU. And also, we'll put pertinent information over here. We added this new informational box on the left side of the page so that if you want additional information from us, we'll continue to post it out there. So this link would take you to the co-op website, just our regular website that just shows all the contracts that we currently hold and our contact information, just kind of how we operate. This is to the same website, but it's just specific to the annual buy. So if you wanted to get that PDF catalog, this is where you'll find it. So if you still want to distribute the PDF catalog, we'll do that again this year. Or if you just want to launch into ESU1's version of the system, that's where that will be as well. And then also, for you to be able to report any issues. So since you're getting the product directly, we know that there might be a time where you might get shorted something, or you might get long, or there might be a damage. If you click on this box, at the report issue box, all you have to do is go create an account based on your email address, set up a password, and then you can go through and it will just have an informational box. We're still building this out right now, but you just put your issue, and that will give us an issue ticket number so we can track your issue throughout the perpetuity until we get it actually solved, until that issue is resolved for you. Also, you'll have that supplier information, so if you want to resolve the issue directly, you don't want to wait for us, you can do that. But we wanted to make sure there was a warm handoff in between the old way and the new way. So this issue view reporting is the way that you'll be able to do that. All right, so I've got my cart here. I've got 24 items. I can review it, and once I hit the continue button, it will take me into this field where I can actually look through and see exactly what I want out of these orders, right? So this is our paper order. So I can give it PO of KIP 101. And then here is the CWG, the external hard drives. So I can give it KIP 102 if I want for the PO number. I guess I still had some things I hadn't checked out from the last CWG order. So also, last year, you know, when you did the shopping cart, once you moved to shopping cart, or you moved to checkout, you couldn't pull those items back, right? It was done. As long as you don't check out, anything you add from another catalog will end up in this checkout here until you actually physically check it out. So right now what it's doing is in some other trainings I've pulled these up and I've never actually pushed them out yet. So now it's bringing all my CWG purchases together until I push them out. So that's why it's bringing me 3 items as opposed to just the 1. All right. So once I've applied a purchase order number, I can now request this order. By request, what it's telling me is, we're going to go over this later, I have a workflow in place and the workflow essentially is my approval process. So it's going to the system is going to tell me how I can order. You have to have a workflow in place to be able to order because there has to be some kind of an approver in the system. They're very basic. I promise you it's not as threatening as it sounds, but it will allow you to buy the way you want to. I'm going to show you how I built out broken bows as an example. So you can have it as complex as they do, or you can have it very simple where once you've got it in place, it will always just take place, and that's always who's going to approve your orders. But for our case right now, I'm just going to go ahead and request this item that or these items that we just pushed through, and now it's just telling me my workflow is in progress. And by that, what that means is it's sent on to my approval chain. I no longer have it as the requester. It's in whoever the approver's hands is. Don't worry, we're going to go over that as fast as possible. If I click on the view, right now it's defaulted to say view workflow. My workflow right now tells me as a requester that I'm going to wait for Kip Schneider to approve this order. Okay? Is everybody good on the shopping piece? Okay.
Now, when your Kip Schneider, your approver gets it, can he say, no, this item can't be? But you didn't pull this.
No, we're going to go over, you get to be the very first ESU where we requested a different functionality where we can, before when you created this, like KIP 101, that PO couldn't be changed, right? Well, for you to be able to add your faculty members on there, they're not going to know what your PO numbers were. So that's why I argued with ESM that they had to have a way to change that purchase order at the end to allow you to have as many faculty members as you wanted to use the system, right? So you're going to be the first ESU to test out or see our new functionality where you can edit POs on the back end through your approver function so that your users can request whatever and you can actually tag it with your real PO number as it goes out the door. Okay? We good? All right. So, to build out your system, what we started with is a location. We asked Jolene for your main district office location, so that's what we built in. So right now you have one location in your instance of the software. You can add as many locations as you want. We just started with, we wanted to understand what your base was, your build to address was. So that's what's in your system right now. I'm going to show you how we build out locations. So if you have an elementary that you want to add, a middle, maybe you have an off-site office or something like that, I'm going to show you how we build those in. And then also I'm going to show you how we can add your users and how you can deem people as approvers. So maybe you're going to have multiple people approve in your system, okay? The easiest way to remember this as you're building out your instance is locations first, because users have to have a location to be affixed to. Okay? So locations, then users. So I'm going to go under the menu, and you're all built into in your instance as an administrator, so you can create in your instance. I'm going to go into admin, and under the select function, I'm going to go into general settings. General settings essentially tells you what your account is going to be and how it's going to operate. Okay? This is if you're going to create something other than an approval process, this is where you're going to find it. If you're going to edit a user, this is where you're going to find it. So if you're changing or creating, this is where we find it. Under the menu, admin, general settings. And also we handed out a little spreadsheet or a reference guide. I apologize for the rough nature of it. I was trying to get it done as quickly as possible. But it can walk you through any of the steps that we do today through screenshots. All right, so to create a location, we go to Add Edit Locations. And we can make one called Jolene School. All right, when I search against that, it's telling me that it's not found anything like Jolene School out there. So it's asking me if I want to create a new one, or if I want to cancel because maybe I mistyped something and I'm really just trying to edit an existing school that we have. A good practice for you is the way that your first location was built in your live environment. It's called default location. You're going to want to go in there even the day before you leave or when you get back to search against default location. And it's going to find that location. You're going to change it to the name that you really want to call it, whether it's your high school or if it's a central office or whatever. Okay? So that's kind of your first bit of homework, is to change that default location name to the name that you want. But right now I'm going to make one as Jolene's School. All right, Jolene's School is not in there, so I'm going to add new.
Mine does not look like that at all. There's logged off for some reason. We can't get it back on.
Your trading account log
The
out.
whole thing,
You might have somebody else that's trying out. The fun thing is we go around the state and do this, is sometimes when people hang on to these, they might be trying out their practices right now on the same credential as you have.
Okay.
So here's a couple more.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm not in this mode yet.
If you log out, you can log back in with one of those credentials. All right, so as I go through to create a location, anything in red I need to add before it's going to allow me to create this location to make it happen in our system. So all I have to do is type in the ancillary information. Now we already have what we perceive to be your bill-to location in there. Most schools are only going to have one bill-to. So what you're going to be adding more than likely is a ship-to location. You're probably not going to be making a second bill-to location. Maybe you will, and you can do that by just clicking this box. If you do it that way, you have to give it a bill-to attention, which would typically be the same as your school's name or the location ID. But for right now, we're just going to make this as a ship-to location, okay? And once we add that, we can go out and search to find, to make sure that we've got this the way we want it.
Where did you go to do that?
It's the same place where you add them. It's called the Add Edit feature. So you can edit a location in the same field. So where I said your default, all you got to do is search default and you can edit. So I'm going to go edit Jolene's school right now. So I'll type in Jolene's, and it's going to bring up Jolene's as I hit the go button. Okay? And then all I have to do is click on the school's name. And now we're going to call this Central School. Maybe I mistyped something, the name wasn't right. So now we've changed it from Jolene School to Central School. So you got me there? Where we add, we can also edit. And that's the same case for your users as well. Are we good there? Yes? No? All right. So just remember menu, admin, select function. Under the general settings, we have add edit locations. And all this is in those screenshots. All right. So we're still under the admin function right now. And now we're going to go create a user. So for you, this would be a faculty member. So if you're going to build out all of your teachers in the system, you can do it this way. Or if you're just going to be the one ordering, or maybe 3 or 4 people in your school are going to be able to order, this is how you would create those other people within your school instance. And I would always encourage you, even if you're going to be the only one ordering, you're going to want to add at least another person and have them know the process, because there's a default setting in here where you can delegate your approving process, your approving credentials. So if you're sick, if you're out, if you're going on vacation, you can grant that functionality to somebody else so the ball doesn't get dropped while you're out. Okay? So we're going to go down to Add Edit Users. All right. So we're going to create,
You won't pull it from the database, would it?
what's that?
You won't pull it from the database?
No, we've asked for the functionality to be able to point towards the ESU directory, which actually falls into the schools, and that's something that they can't do right now. But we do have, if you're a large school district, we have a template that you can fill out and then we can upload it. But as you see today, it takes me about 20 to 30 seconds to make a user in the system. So it's a pretty easy process, but yeah, it would be nice if we could do it. We can do it through a CSV upload, but we can't just point towards a directory at this point. So let's see. We will make. Somebody give me a name.
Scott.
Scott. Scott at noreply.com. All right. So what you would do is, to add a user, you would essentially just put their email address into this field. And then again, the go button drives the next action, or makes this action take place. So we hit go. Tells me that I don't have anybody with that email address in the system. Do I want to make them? Yes, I do. So I hit add new. So now I can make Scott with Frost. Now, as phone is not a required field in this process, I always add phone, because if you don't, when that user goes to log in, they'll have to enter their phone number anyway. They can do it, but it could lead to a little bit of confusion since they probably haven't gone through the training yet. So, all right. So these privileges, the privileges are what drives the rights of the user. So you're all granted out of the box an admin privilege. Admin privilege means that you have the right to create, add and edit users, add and edit locations, change your entity settings. You also have the right as an admin in the system, you could search yourself here, and you could give yourself any of these functions that you want. Okay? The approve function means that you will have the right, or you reserve the right to be able to approve orders in the future. You could possibly be an approver. It doesn't mean you have to be, but it means when somebody's choosing that delegate email to have you to be able to approve while you're out, that means that when you create that person, giving them approval process or approval privileges means that they could approve orders. It doesn't mean that they will. You still have to flip that switch on for them, but it means that they can. Office. The office function, what that does is it says that that person is always going to get the order last. Okay? No matter what happens, based on your business practices, that person's always going to get the order last unless you change your entity settings to release from approver. Okay? With the new functionality that we have, I'm going to show you a way that you could still have an office piece where somebody touches the order last, but they don't have to be called office, and that will allow for that PO being changed. With the new feature functionality in the system, the office function isn't quite as important as it had been in the past. But that essentially, I just kind of want to let you know what each one of those means. This aggregate receive tab is only in there because we utilized that function last year as a special build for us. And since this is our training environment, we haven't pulled it out. You won't see this function. It's a defunct function in the system. Analytics. By clicking this, essentially the person can, through the menu field, click on this tab which it shows them bar graphs and pie charts of what contracts they've purchased against and in what volumes they've done so. I don't know that it's ever going to be a real important thing for you to utilize, but I just wanted to tell you that's what it would do if you give it to them, that function. You can go in and hit that button, and depending on how quick the internet is, it will pull up little bar graphs and pie charts of how you bought. And I'm not going to wait for it because Jolene wants me to go. All right, order summary. Order summary is a really neat, quick tool to be able to just pull up little bits of data. So maybe you have pending requests or orders that are waiting approval. This would be a way just to go in and real quick just check to see what orders are still outstanding or get little bits of data. So if you give this functionality to a user, they can pull that function out of the system. But if you give it to anybody, you don't want to give it to everybody because then maybe the science teacher can see what the math teacher is ordering, right? So you want to be kind of careful about who you give this to because they will be able to see all the orders within your instance if you grant them this function. Okay? Now this is where you can give them that delegate approver. They can change this whenever they're going. They can always change it to any one of the approvers in the system that are built. And I apologize, a lot of schools are building in and practicing just like I've told you as a best practice how they want to do it. So there's a ton of these in there. Yours probably wouldn't be nearly as lengthy. But I can go through and decide that I'm going to give approval rights to, this is Brenda's. I can give approval rights to Brenda if this person's going to be gone. They don't have to change that approver when they leave. They can just flip it to active. Okay. Most of the schools typically just use PO. You have the right, and I'll show you in our entity settings, where you can create the credit card ordering process. But most of you will just say that typical user probably doesn't have the right to order from a credit card, so your typical user, you're not going to set them up with credit card ordering privileges. All right. And then creating non-catalog suppliers. That's a function that we'll be rolling out shortly where you can actually use the system to create maybe your local suppliers so that you could get a quote from them, embed it in the system, and run a purchase through so that it could still match up and you could still have that information in the same place. Allowing approver edits. By selecting that, that means that the approver can change the quantity that you've requested. The approver could change your PO number. So if you want to be able to augment your requester's information, that's a good box to select. Okay? Order summary edit. This comes along with that order summary tool. And that gives that one person within your instance the right to be able to go through and change things within the order summary. I would say that it's a pretty advanced function, and for right now, I'd probably say hold off and we can kind of come back around on it through tutorials next year. But essentially you're giving this person godlike powers within your instance. Well, maybe not godlike powers. Herculean, I don't know. All right. So now that we've created Scott Frost and we've given him all of the privileges that he can have, we're going to go ahead and, let's say, what did we change that one to? Central?
Yep. Central schools, I think.
Central schools. So central school, this is the location that we just built, so I can type in that field, and we're going to give Scott central school. Now, since I didn't select central school as a build to option, that's not going to be available in here. So this is where when you create that user, they might be at your central school or your elementary school, but their build to might be ESU co-op. Okay? So the build to is still your high school or your central offices, but their ship to location is the school, their elementary, their high school, the junior high or whatever. That way when they go through and request things in the system, they don't have to change that default setting. The product that they order will just be shipped to the location they're associated with, but billed to the other location. Okay? So that way the Staples, the Quill, they know when orders are coming from our system, they can associate them to say, we're going to ship here, but we're going to bill here. So that's how our suppliers know what to do with your order. Email alerts, by clicking this function, essentially what that means is the person associated with this email address, so scott@noreply.com, anything in the system that affects them based on their order, so maybe you're an approver, you're making an approver right now. Anytime that Scott would need to approve an order, he would get an email at that address telling him that he needs to go out and approve an order. And then once he embedded in that email is a hyperlink, he'll click that hyperlink, it will log him into the system, and then it will take him to the action. Okay, so he doesn't have to go through and fumble around. By clicking the hyperlink, it will just take you out to that function. So I would recommend using email alerts for everybody because more information is better than less. You can always delete an email, but it's a good way to make sure that people are notified when an action is needed. Our supplier is based in Philadelphia, so I always default at the Central Standard Time. It's just a preference, it doesn't really matter. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and add Scott. So now Scott's in our system, we just created Scott. Now if I want to go through and edit something, so maybe Scott's taking on a new role, and he, maybe we just don't want Scott to use the order summary tool anymore. Maybe for some reason we don't want him to have it. So we can go ahead and take that function off. Or maybe he's moving between buildings. Maybe he was typically located at your elementary and now he's moving to ESU 17. So maybe it's in our terminology, maybe it's your high school. You can change these features based on your faculty just by going to the edit function now. Just the same search, it's just when the search identifies that Scott now exists, now as opposed to adding him, we're editing his functionality. And then we can go ahead and update Scott. If you're ever going to deactivate a user, so maybe they're leaving and you want to shut down their account, what I recommend is before you go to the deactivate function that I'm going to show you right after this, is we go to Scott's actual, his own user sheet, we edit his profile, and we give his email address maybe a couple of ones at the beginning, because once we purge that email out of the system, we can never use that email address again. So maybe you use first initial of first name and then their last name, so maybe there's like a Sam Frost that would come along afterwards, but you can't create Sam Frost in the ESM system because it has a remembrance of Scott Frost. By messing around with that email address beforehand, editing it, now we can go ahead and deactivate Scott and not worry about that email address being an issue maybe a couple years down the road. Does that make sense? You look at me like, no. All right. Essentially, the reason that we're editing it is so we can use that email address again. Now I'll go to the general settings. We're still under menu, admin. And now I can go ahead and deactivate Scott. And I can just click the deactivate button. Now Scott is no longer in my instance, but like I said, I recommend you edit that email address just so you could use it again in the future. So how much fun was that? We made Scott, then we changed Scott, and then we got rid of Scott. So
How did you bring up, or how do you bring up a list of people that you've already put in? You know, say you,
sure. If we go into the add edit user function, if you're wondering, you're making users and you're like, did I make Sarah, did I make, a quick way to do it is you can search against the @ symbol and it would bring up anybody that you've got in there. Now I've got currently, you know, about 170 users in there. But since it's based on email address, anybody will have that @ symbol in there. So you could just go through there and we could expand the rows per page by just dropping this down to 15. And that's a little more manageable to be able to flip through there and see, okay, yeah, I do have this person, I have this person. I'll show you later how we run an extract, and you can run a entity profile, and that will show you all the users in a spreadsheet. But I would recommend, if you're just creating your users in the system, just the @ symbol, you're probably not going to have, you know, as many as we do in our training environment, so it'd be pretty easy to thumb through it a couple of times to see if you do have that person, as it goes alphabetically by last name. All right, so how do we feel about adding locations, adding users? Feel like you can do it? Yeah? No? If anybody wants to, I'll try to go as fast as I can. But if anybody wants to stay afterwards and kind of practice a couple things, just let me know. I'll work through a couple situations with you. All right. So this is really how, I'm going to show you now how we drive your instance, how your instance works. And the two big settings are our entity settings, and that's still in this menu, admin, general settings function. In the entity settings, this tells you how your entity is going to operate as a whole. This is where you can determine whether or not your entity will allow credit cards to be used. If you wanted to select that box, it will. This is also where I said, if you want to turn on that office function for somebody, they'd always be the last person to see the order. That's not the case if you have your settings like I do to approver. In this case, the approver is going to be the one that's releasing the order. So we're eliminating the back office function. That's where I was saying that function could kind of be defunct now. You won't want to auto-release POs. This is the function that we had added recently where it allows us to edit POs. And this is why I do not have auto-reject if approver edits selected. If I unselect this, and yours will out of the box come with it selected. If I unselect this auto-reject function, that means that now my approver has the option to edit purchase orders as they're received to them. Okay? All right. We're not going to be encumbering funds because nobody's really tied into, ESM has an application where they actually tie into your ERP, and it actually encumbers funds from your accounting system as you transact. You never actually would have to enter a PO number, ever. They just pull them through, and it drops in anything bought through this site. It automatically drops it right back into your accounting system. Grand Island Public Schools uses ESM for that function. So when they heard that we were launching this full scale this year, they were pretty ecstatic because now they have their own instance and they use ESM for their ERP. So, and obviously you probably want to leave your tax rate to 0 unless you want to pay taxes that you don't have to. If we were going to change something in here, like if you wanted the POs to just go automatically, just it'd go 1, 2, 3 every time you order. You could do that, and then you hit the update button. Once you hit the update button, then it's going to lock in that setting. But I'm going to leave ours to manually, so I'm just going to cancel out of that. All right. Now I'm going to run through. As you see, I've got the settings set, so I will not reject orders if an approver edits. I'm going to walk you through the approval process of what's called a workflow. A workflow it really should just be called approval process. I don't know why they named it workflow, but all it is it's defining how your orders are going to be approved. You have to have a workflow in your instance, but I'm going to show you. I leave, like I said, this training login. You can log in and beg, borrow, and steal from any of the workflows we've got out there and apply them back to your live instance, because we leave them up there. I've got one called Basic, and it is the easiest workflow. It's listed in there on the handout. And once you set it up, you never have to change it again, unless maybe somebody leaves or you want to add another approver. So we're still under the menu admin function. But now we're going to go to workflow settings, okay? Now workflow criteria, this is what's going to define how you can filter out your approval process. So the very basic one I've done, it goes off of transaction total. So that means it's going to approve orders based on an order amount. But you could use a criteria that would be ship to location. That would be used if you're going to have different approvers by your buildings, by your different buildings. And that's where I'll show you the Broken Bow one I built out, how they're using a combination of transaction total and the ship to locations. Ship to attention would be essentially the requester, so you could have different workflows. So that would be more of a departmental workflow. Maybe you've got a science department and a head of that science department, and you want them to approve everybody, so you can name them by name in that function. Somebody put payment form in here for me the other day. An account code. So maybe a good way to do an account code approval would be maybe everybody that is within a certain department always has the same account code, right? So you could approve orders in the system based on that account code being identified within an order. It makes much less sense now, but I want to show you how you define your criteria before I go in there and you ask me how I got there, okay? So if you ever want to toy around with additional criteria down the road to add additional functionality, this is where you'd go. You could just select on the item and then assign it over there, and now it's a way to be able to add something in there, okay? Add edit workflow is just like to add edit user or add edit location. I can search against one to find an existing one, or I can create a new one if it's not found by just putting in the name and going through there. So on the handout, the easiest workflow, and if you want a very, very easy process for an approval process this year, this is the one to do. I'm going to type in basic. All right. So what basic means is anytime a transaction total is greater than or equal to, doing this process I had to go back to like 3rd grade math, like the alligator eats the bigger one. Yeah. I still do syllables by clapping too. You're laughing, but it's true. So this one says transaction total greater or equal to 0. Then it's going to be approved by Kip. Pretty simple, right? So that would mean any order within your instance, Kip's going to approve. But maybe you want a couple people to be able to approve. So So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say or, and now I'm going to say Brenda, and now Brenda and I can approve. It's like a book, it reads left to right. Transaction total greater or equal to 0, then Kip or Brenda can approve. It doesn't mean that we both have to. We'll both get that email telling us that there's an order to be approved, and either one of us can go in and approve it now. Now if you want two people to have, these two people both have to approve the order, then all I have to do is switch this or to and. Okay? So I'm going to show you broken bows now, and it's kind of it's a combination of this basic one, but it's also built on the ship to locations within broken bow. So I made 2 for broken bow. They called me and they said, we want a certain group of people to approve orders to the high school and to the elementary. We have another group of people, we just have one person that we want to approve these other 2 locations. So we've got 2 workflows, and I'm going to show you how they capture both of them. Okay, so Broken Bow Public School is the main one that they've got. And essentially what this one means is anything, this is our very basic one, transaction total greater than or equal to 0. But then we put in a stipulation, this and. What this and means is it has to meet these criteria as well. Okay? So now we're saying anything as opposed to transaction total, we're hitting this default button here and we're saying the ship to location contains, and they named their ship to locations high school and elementary. So anytime it contains high school or elementary in the ship to location at checkout, then it's going to go and mark or Jim or Kim or Ryan or Rusty can approve those orders. Okay? And the reason we had to do a 2-step one was because they had 2 other buildings that they had a different approval process for. I'm going to walk you through that one. It's the same premises here, right? Ship to location contains North Park or Custer. Only Kim Jonas has to approve. She's the only one that's going to approve those orders. So this way, since it's coming from the same instance, all Broken Bow, anything that's going to contain North Park or Custer, now the system's going to say your approval process is contingent upon where the item shipped to. Transaction total greater than 0 is always live. But we're also going to say North Park and Custer, those go to Kim. But for their high school and their elementary, those orders can be approved by Mark, Kim, Ryan, or Rusty. Now if they wanted to make Rusty the very last person and he has to approve it, but these other people can electively approve it, it's one of the 3 can approve it, then what we do is we throw in a next. So then we're saying Rusty has to be the last one to approve. Okay? And then we would just update it. All right. Does anybody have a scenario you want me to work out at your school? You can also send me an email with that card, and I can, if you have questions about setting up one, I will do just like I did for Broken Bow for you. You tell me how you want, and we'll just do a 5-minute phone call. I'll walk through it while we're talking, and I'll build it in a training environment, and then you can just essentially copy it in your live environment. So we're here to help you. We want to make sure it's easy enough for you. And I understand that the workflow seems a little more complex, a little more daunting. But the nice thing is once you set it up, now you know nobody in your system can just create an order willy-nilly. You can define how orders are approved in your system. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to the basic workflow. So the basic workflow is the only one that I've got active right now. All my other ones I click this deactivate button on, so they're not actually going to be involved in any of these in the approval process because I've got them shut off. And how I can tell that is by going to the workflow priority, and it's going to tell me this is the only one in white right now, so it's the only one that's active. Okay? The priority number, what the priority number means is it's the order that the workflow will be assigned. So if you have two workflows and one is most important, or one will happen first, two will happen second, three will happen third. So if you have one workflow that's in the order greater than or equal to 0, then it will follow that workflow. But maybe your superintendent comes to you a month later and he says, you know what, I want to know about any order that's greater than $500. So you could put in a second workflow. It would look the exact same thing as our basic, but as opposed to equal to or greater than 0, it would be equal to or greater than 500. You build your superintendent as a user and an approver, and you add him to the workflow. So he'd be the approver of that workflow, and he'd only ever see an order, he'd only actually be engaged in any workflow if an order was over $500, okay? So there's a whole bunch of different ways you could do it. It can be based on the ship-to location. We've got one here where a school wanted to do it based on department. So what we did is, our ship-to attention contains, and then we define the users in the system. So Robert De Niro, Saul Hudson, you know who Saul Hudson is? His name is Slash, top hat, black hair. And Winnie the Pooh will be approved by Kip or Brenda. So you could do that. You could break it up by faculty members in a workflow, and all you have to do is just hit this add button to add more users. And like I said, it seems daunting right now, but once you set it up, then you can kind of just sit back and let it take place, let the approval process take place. So you don't have to do it all the time. This is just the initial setup before the annual buy starts, before you start ordering. You just have to get a workflow in there. And it can be any one of these, or like I said, give me a phone call or shoot me an email. I'm traveling a lot right now, so we could even set up a time to talk, and we can walk through it. So I can walk you through. You tell me what you want, and while we're on the computer together, I will build your workflow in the training environment. I'll name it your school, or I'll build like I did for Broken Bow, build 2, or if we need 3, I'll build them out, and then you can go in and we'll name it for your school, and you can just copy them over to your live environment. Okay?
Kip, if they don't have time between now and March 5th, and they just wanna go the old way, you know, paper and all that for paper, then they might have more time to enter all these teachers and stuff for the annual buy. Would that work, or do they have to do this right now, this year?
You can do it whenever you want. It's your instance. You know, I'd recommend you go and add the users because right now, because just like I said, it doesn't take very long. You can do you go through and add Jolene in just a little bit of time, and then that's done and you never have to do it again. And by setting all this stuff up in advance of March 5th, before people start ordering against it, that means you don't have to create that spreadsheet anymore. You just set up the approval process and then just run the report when the ordering's done, right? But you could just keep yourself as an orderer, and you make yourself your own approver, like I have in here in the system, and that's fine too. But if it were me, I would talk to my principal and ask, or my superintendent and ask them, this is how it works. There has to be an approver for anybody to order against the system. I would like to put all of our faculty members in here because it's going to save me all of this time. Because once you've done it this year, you don't have to add those users again next year, or the next year, or the next year. So doing the legwork this year before March 5th happens means that you don't have to do that ever again. You might have to, if somebody leaves, you might have to delete them or deactivate their account, or if a new faculty member comes on, you might have to add them as a user. But other than that, the bulk of the work is done already, right?
I just don't know. In our school, they really the superintendent really approves absolutely everything that each teacher orders. I don't even know if she'll do this way. You know, we might just have to
Sure.
do it through me or through her.
Yeah,
But I just don't, I can't see her doing it that way, letting all the teachers just put it in there. I just can't see it.
that's why I'd say, you know, go back, have a conversation, because obviously, the instance is yours. I can't tell you how to use it. I just hope you use it, right? But I want it to be as easy for everybody. And it might take time. It might take maybe 30% of the schools here are gonna do it that way, or 50%, and 50% are gonna do it the old way. And then next year, it might take one of the schools that did do it to convince your administrator to say, look, it is so much easier when we just add these people in there, when we let it go through your approval process. Because your superintendent's approving it anyway, right? So why wouldn't you rather do it in palatable bites as it comes and you get an email, as opposed to sitting there and have to scratch it all out and, you know, all at one time? And then it takes the onus off of you for somebody saying, well, I did order that stapler, where is it? You know, I don't know whose voice that was.
But with this, digital content,
Yeah.
individual teacher.
Yes.
When our teachers request all of these items, I would like to sit down with the superintendent and go item by item and look at them. What's the best way for me to print that out on paper so I can look at that with him?
You can do, we have a new reporting tool that's supposed to be coming out. We thought we were gonna have it by February 4th, but our supplier doesn't have it. They're doing a release date of, I think it's late February, so we're gonna do a training video and put it up on the shop page here for you, so you can see how that reporting tool works. But what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to allow you to pick through the criteria that you think is important and run a report, whether it's PDF or Excel, as opposed to the extract that we had last year. But for right now, you'd almost have to do the extract, because where I told you about the order summary, where I granted that functionality to our user, I've got that here. I could go and search against all the orders that fell within a certain create date, but it doesn't give me the manufacturer or model number, so I won't know what the dollar amount that's at the end is associated with, right? So it's not a great report for that, so you'd probably still have to run the extract until we get that new reporting tool. And the new reporting tool is supposed to be amazing. They're saying it's revolutionized how they work at ESM. So you shouldn't have to use an extract. You should be able to pick the data points that are important to you. And if I take it that you're thinking you're not going to grant access to all of the faculty members based on you guys reviewing those?
I would like them to all have access so they can upload it, but then we just cut and say yes, no.
Okay.
You know, rather
You-
than the superintendent going online on this website.
So what you could do is you sit back and you don't approve anything. You don't approve anything, and you tell people, even if they're ordering from Staples, Quill, whatever, we're not approving any orders until April 20th. You give them a random date that you and your superintendent are gonna go sit down and do this. So you just go through, you hit this approve tab, and I'm sure I've got a billion of these. You just go through and you approve the orders that are sitting there. And if you drop this little blue tab down, it will show you all the information you need in each and every order. Maybe you guys carve out a couple of hours that day where you're just gonna go through and you're gonna approve orders. Right?
So if you hit the hold, where do they go?
What's that?
It says approve, hold, and does it reject?
Hold is a function I'm asking them to get rid of.
Okay.
Because once you put it in hold function, then it essentially can never be brought back to live status. So I don't know why they have it that way.
So just use approve or reject.
Approve or reject. I'm gonna run you through the functionality now of changing a PO, how that works.
We just have one question. So now I've approved and rejected all of my orders, then I still have to do one final approved process, right?
Yeah, because
As
you're,
the approver.
as the approver, yes.
Okay.
Okay,
I have a question. We have our co-op order, and then we actually order from other vendors afterwards also. And with those vendors, we would actually request them to bill us in September, so it's on next year's billing, because these are next year's next year's stuff. So, do these vendors know that sometimes we don't want to be billed or shipped until August or September?
Like the ones external of the annual buy?
Yes.
It just depends, like, who are you working with on that, like, school specialty
Yeah,
or?
yeah. We have to do extra ones outside the
Sure.
date or whatever.
Um,
Are they willing to work with us and get those prices too, or not?
yeah, I'll have to figure that out, because, I mean, the system's designed to have the orders go out as they're received. But if you could shoot me an email of the suppliers you work with, because I'm guessing we've got contracts with them, whatever, I can talk to them and see how that works. Because you could do, if they'd adhere to this, we could put like an external note right here on this order, and that would go to the supplier and say, maybe you've got a term that, 14,
It was kind of almost handy to order now and then get them in the summer because the teachers weren't there anyway. I
yeah,
don't know if I really want it right away.
yeah. Well, and that's,
Because
it's,
it's for next year's stuff, we don't want to be using it this year, I guess we gotta hide it or.
Yeah.
I mean.
well, or what you could do is, they could order it when they're getting back a couple days before school starts, they could order it off the live site.
Then are we gonna get the discount that we get between, what, April or order it?
Well, you were probably not, you weren't getting annual buy pricing on those items, were you?
No,
No, you were getting like our,
but, we'd rather order them now during that time frame for the price.
well, our year-round contracts, those prices aren't gonna change. We've locked those prices in, so you can order those whenever.
Okay,
So like the school specialty pricing that you get, that's a co-op contract,
okay,
or anybody who orders from CW. So we're gonna leave those catalogs out there all the time. You can order from those whenever you want, however you want. We're never taking those down.
okay.
When the annual buy closes on April 25th, we're pulling those catalogs out, but everything else will still remain in your live environment. So you could order, so maybe you're gonna order all those, August 15th or something, or August 10th.
But I see what she's saying, so if we order it on April 25th, we're all done, we put our order on April 25th, that stuff is gonna
And it's
come.
gonna ship in July, and it's gonna be billed
It's
30
gonna-
days later.
It's gonna come in the summer,
What
right,
we're
just like it
saying
was?
is we ship it, we have them ship it later and bill us later.
So you want the, even the annual buy pricing to be separate, in a separate fiscal year.
Right,
Okay,
because we want it billed into September, which is the beginning of our new school year.
sure.
So we want it billed later and shipped later than what they're offering us, essentially.
Okay. I'm gonna do an update to Jolene to send back to you guys, because in the past, we didn't exchange the funds with you at the co-op level, so I need to figure out how all those nuances work here so I can get back to you.
Jolene, when did you bill us? Because by the time you got everything back, were we billing into the July period?
I usually build right away and then you guys paid whenever you wanted to.
Okay.
We just pay
And we-
for it.
Wasn't it the advantage of doing the co-op is that all the schools would, you push your order in and then we get by bulk and then we get a discount? Is that the kind of discount we're getting now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the
Yeah,
annual
you're
co-op
still
buy is
getting the
same.
discount by bulk.
Okay.
It's just, one of those things about us changing practices is trying to learn some of these internal practices. And everything varies by region at different ESU, so we're gonna have to kind of do some filling out. So that's why I said, we just need to do some chatting to see exactly how that was conducted in the past, and we'll figure out some way to work around it, so.
So if we order now between now and the 25th, it still ships in the summer though?
Yeah, so the first ship period was July, right?
June 1st is the
June
first
1st.
day that you can receive product.
June 1st.
July 15th is the delivery deadline for them. So anything after that, we
So
consider
between
late.
June-
So you're
We'll
gonna
get
get
our
billed-
stuff in the summer,
You're gonna
And
get
then
billed
we
in
get-
July.
yeah. It's just that,
Hopefully.
the first bills will start, some of them could start coming earlier than that, because if they shipped in June, they're gonna bill probably earlier, no?
Well, they will, but we're gonna, like I said, we can try to figure out something to match your previous business practices. So that's just one thing that we kind of experience things regionally that are different ESU by ESU, so this is just one of those. We just gotta work
And
out.
Kip, you don't care, if my superintendent wants me to put all the orders in, it doesn't make any difference, does it?
We're granting you an instance to use however you want. The idea is I wanna just train you how to use it, because I know that it's a lot different now, and maybe it's gonna, maybe it's gonna take you a year or two to get your faculty's ear or another school to say, so I'm gonna guess most of you look at this and you're like, I'd love to do that, and I've heard this a lot, but my superintendent's never gonna let me do it, right? But then I have other schools that are saying, yep, we're gonna do it this way and we're not gonna manage it that way. So I could even try to find some advocates for you coming around to next year to kind of have some conversations. Because ultimately it's gonna be easier for you and your school to do it this way, but you know, old habits die hard. It's kind of one of those things where we're fundamentally changing. Change is hard. I'm learning that. Well, the second year of change management for us, so
But
I
even just to
understand
see
that.
it working will help, or to see it.
Yeah, so it's just a process. But yeah, you can use the instance however you want. You could be the approver in the system and the orderer, and that's fine. Because that's how I'm set up right here. Let me show you, if you ever go to the menu profile tab, this is going to show you what your profile is, right? This is just specific to me. So what this is telling me is I'm the orderer, I'm the approver. I've got the analytics tool, which I don't really need. Oh, I can't check it off, so I can see what I have. Brenda's my delegate approver. I've got email alerts, and I'm allowing approver edits, right? And POs. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, like I said, you can go through and edit your own, since you have admin rights, you can edit your own profile. So when you go back to your school, you can go in to this add edit user function, find yourself, and you can give yourself office function if you decide that you do want to use that. Or maybe you're going to be the approver. Because your account out of the box is going to come to you with everybody that's a user has order, and then you, as we were defined, you were working within your school, we gave you admin privileges. So that means you can even go into your own profile and change your own profile.
How many do you have to have checked in there? Like if you just checked, like you just want people to order and I just want to approve, do I have to go through all those steps?
Nope. We'll make.
Like I could be, they could be order and I could be admin and we're done?
Yep. This is how a. This is how a typical out of the box one will look. Standard configuration. The only thing that's checked is ordered. So all you got to do is just put in their information, their name, their last name. The reason it doesn't ask for this is you could just go through and define their ship to locations and just add them if you wanted to, and then leave it up to them to put in all their information. So you can do that.
Do you know?
Because Carl would just get an email once you create your users in your instance, just like you got an email from ESM and noreply.com, they'll get it. That's how you got that email. When we created you, it shot out an email.
You don't know who visited the website though, so like if I put everybody in my school, like I put 14 or 15 people in there, and I said, okay, they're, you know, the deadline's here, and I want to make sure everybody at least looked at it once, I can't see that, can I?
You can't see it. You'll just see when they're requesting an order to you. So there's no
So I
like.
just have to say, you didn't really want anything.
Yeah, there's no like last login or anything.
Okay, Kip, with just one question we wanted. When on the annual buy, when you put in Willie Nelson as a teacher, his order comes back, Willie Nelson. It isn't just all.
Not on the annual buy, on the year-round buy.
Oh.
The year-round buying, like a Staples or a Quill, that requester ID will show as shipped to attention. The annual buy, they'll aggregate your order. But, like, say you're buying like a TV or something that's not bulk, and it's just requested by one teacher or something. Jolene can attest to this. Here at Wakefield, you got a lot of boxes from UPS, FedEx, whatever. So a lot of that stuff, your local FedEx driver, UPS driver, they're going to now be your co-op supplier. They'll bring by a box. And if it was just one person in your school ordering that, so you could get annual buy items that come to ship to attention, whatever. But Brown and Sanger, the big suppliers, or like BSN Sports, you're probably going to have multiple orders from that group, so they're going to come not shipped to attention.
And then we'll sort it out.
You'll sort it out. You'll sort
And will it
it
be
out.
split between buildings?
If you,
Or one school district all come, the whole Brown and Sanger order comes one day?
that's where your ship to attention information, or their ship to location is important. Because if you're gonna ship stuff to, maybe you have an elementary and a high school, you can have run through, if you're the only one ordering, you run through your elementary orders, and you default those to the ship to location of elementary, and then you run through your high school ones and you ship to the high school. So maybe you have 2 separate orders for white paper, okay? So wherever your ship to attention on that purchase order is indicating, that's where the product's going.
Well, actually, what I meant was, when the order, not when it's shipped, but when the order comes into, Janelle here, does she know that this teacher ordered this?
What you'll know is based on the report that you run after the buy. So we can either do this extract here and filter it out by your teachers.
So it will,
Yeah,
okay. So if you put in all your teachers, it'll come through as this teacher ordered this teacher ordered this.
yeah, if you add all your faculty members, it will, like I said, it will create all that reporting that you used to do. It will create all of that for you. Because all you have to do is run a report when everybody's bought, and we'll send out the video on that reporting tool as soon as it's done. All you do is you run that report, and then it will just tell you everything that everybody ordered in their requester line. It's just one thing that you indicate is important in that report, because that'll be the person that ordered it. All right, so I'm going to walk you through here. I'm going to show you how our workflow that's active right now is set up. So we've got the basic workflow on. And right now it says transaction total greater or equal to 0. And Kip Schneider is going to approve. I'm going to show you a good step for the exact same function, but maybe you're going to approve, or maybe you're going to have a principal approve and you're the business manager. Or maybe somebody else is going to approve. You want the business manager to touch it last so they can put that PO number on there, right? So what we do is we do a next, we do an add, and so I can demonstrate it, I'll make myself a dual approver here, okay? All right, so now we've updated our workflow. Now I'm going to go shop and I'm going to show you how this workflow functions. All right, so we're going to add one item to the cart. We look at our cart. There it is. I hit the continue button. I can hit this blue button right there, that blue triangle, to drop it down if I want to see any other information, or if I want to tag a specific item with a specific GL account code. But the only thing that it's really looking for, that's really mandatory, is this PO number, right? So I'm going to update. Oh, I already have that PO number in there. All right. So now I'm going to request, right? I'm just acting as the orderer here. I'm a faculty member. I'm going to request this order. Now I can view the workflow to see where my order is going to be. It's got to be approved by Kip Schneider. The approver, you could always just go to your Approve tab after you sign in and you can see the orders that are awaiting approval, or you'll get that email and you can just link into it. I'm going to go through and maybe I'm going to let the, I'm going to go through and approve, and then I'm going to change the PO at the next level, okay? Because I had the Kip Schneider approves and then next Kip Schneider approves. So I'll approve this. It doesn't like me being my own approver twice. Alright, so I'll push this one out and we'll change the PO. But if you added somebody else next, it's identify me as the approver twice, so it's just having me do it. If you had somebody else next, that person could be the business manager in the last chain of your approval function. I know this because Brenda and I tested it back and forth. That person could change the order after somebody else has already approved it. So But to be able to go through and change it, I'll just do I can request the order. And now I can approve it. So what this is I'm trying to demonstrate is you could have your users put in, I understand they're not gonna know the PO number, so maybe they just put in their name so it satisfies that PO requester field, sends it on to you, and maybe you're the actual approver. And you're gonna, you know the actual purchase order number that you wanna assign with that order. So you can go through, put the actual PO number you want on there, approve it, and now it's gonna go out the door with the real PO number that applies to your actual practices. You go through, once you've approved it, and you release it, which it takes you through the PO. And this will just show you the information. So, like I said, the ship to information, where it says attention Kip Schneider, that's because it found me as the requester. So as you see here, if I had changed my ship to information in that field to a different location, then it would show a different ship to address as a different bill to, right? And an approver could change that as well. So we'll find an active order here. When they're keying it up, oh, that one's fixed because I've already approved it. But where you can change that shop to function, the ship to, it's always going to go to that default ship to that you set up in the system and the default bill to. So if you needed to change that, or if you're just the only one ordering, you could still order from the same account. You just split your order out and you just drop the ship to location down here to Test School District. And now that's where I say you can build as many locations as you want in there. It's always going to go to your default one, the one that you set at the time you build the account. But it doesn't mean that's the only place you can send it to.
Do you have any problems, can you put the same PO in? Like it's the same vendor? We're in the same vendor right now, right? So the whole bunch of teachers order from the same vendor, can you put the same PO in or not?
No, you can't. The system won't allow you to use the same PO twice. So each...
And when the vendor gets this, and you might answer this, are they gonna put it all in one shipment? Are they, because we have a different shipper for each teacher, it's gonna be a separate shipment for each one?
The annual buy, they'll put it all together.
I'm sorry, okay.
But the year-round purchases, it will probably come separate, unless like you check out 2 orders from Staples at the same time, like within 2 minutes of each other. They might catch that one and put them in the same box. But if it's like 30 minutes apart, they're a big company, they're, putting stuff in boxes. Separate, based on the requester. But if you're the requester on all those orders, if you're just building yourself out, pretty much all your school orders are going to come in your name. So the box will come to you.
And then, is there a way you can sort items so you know who ordered it?
Yeah, you can do either the reporting tool that's being developed right now. This order summary tab that we talked about, you could go through and you could basically do it by like requester. So like every requester in the system would show up in this, and you could just scroll down and you could say like what Kip's ordered, and it will pull this up. And then if you hit this export button, it will actually email it to you. It'll email that report. If you click on that transaction number right here, it will actually show you that PO that was cut, the order itself. So that's where I said the order summary is a nice quick reference tool if you want to flip through things. You could always run an extract like we had last year, and it will pull a CSV file. report. Now for expediency, I'll go ahead and just click on this one that I ran before because it'll show the same data. So I can run an extract at any time based on how fast Excel pulls up. So what were we talking about before? Phenomenal. I should have tested the Excel update on this.
It's possible it hasn't been open since I installed all that on that computer a few months ago.
But while we're waiting, when it's going to do, did you run an extract last year? It will just pull up a CSV file of all the data within that order. Last year, this is where we requested a new reporting tool because this report is so massive. And it spits out, I think, 44 data points in it, of which you might have found a couple of them to be important. But this one is, well, this one's a profile extract, so this one's telling me everybody that's in the system, in the training system. The other one we did was an activity one. So it's going to pull up all the orders. So if I put a filter on this, then I could sort it based on the requester, because that would be the actual person that was ordering it. I can find our requester. It has to be the same as the user email. Username. So now I'd have a report on all of the orders that are coming from the users in the system, right? Now, like I said, this new reporting tool is supposed to be much cleaner than this, where you can just pick, you know, you could pick requester, manufacturer, part number, item number, dollar amount, whatever's important to you, and it would create maybe a 9-line CSV file as opposed to 44 some lines. But this extract is still somewhat helpful because it is a broad piece of data that you can pull up, and you can just put a filter on it and sort it how you want. But you'll be able to do the same thing with the new reporting tool. You can just pick what you want.
Is this all ready for us to get into now and get and how do we get a password?
Your live accounts are set up. I'll log into ESU1's instance here as soon as everybody feels comfortable or we're done to conclude, and I can make sure we've got the right people in. Or when we got it, we only built one user in. So maybe you've got 2 people and we need to build another one in, or the other one. You can go back and build your other party in if you want, because you have that admin right to add edit users or add edit locations. So we can go through that. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. If you feel lost at all, you need some help, call me. If I'm on the road, call Brenda. You're right on the back of my number. I'll give you the number to the Ainsworth office and ask for Brenda. 402-387-1245. Brenda's at extension 101. So if I'm doing a training and you want to get your account set up right away, you can call Brenda and she can help you out. Like I said too, if you want to give me a quick scenario, I'll have plenty of hotel time over the next couple of weeks. So if you shoot me an email and say, Kip, build me a couple of workflows with these names on them, I'll put them in the training environment. You should have them the next morning when I get, when you come into school, they should be built for you, so you can check them out. All right.
We have a new teacher, we can still use the training program or to
Yeah.
walk them through it to feel comfortable with it too.
Yeah, what like I said, I recommend you take those little training slips, and for good practice, you can build yourself into the training account with your real email address, and maybe whoever else might be an approver in the system. So you can kind of test a couple of orders back and forth, make sure your workflow is working the way you want it to work. it's a good way to proof out the process, because in this training environment, you're not gonna hurt anything, you're not gonna create any real orders. So, just spending 30 minutes talking to your administrator, your superintendent or your principal to see what they want to do with the system, and then kind of working with the people that are actually gonna be facilitating your co-op process, just to build them into the system and test it out a couple times, is a great way to do it. All right, Jillian, did we go fast enough?
Yeah, for me, but no, I know what I'm doing. How many of you believe that?
You didn't know anything yesterday.
I know it, I didn't.
It's, sometimes I have to bring myself back to when the first time I started using this. And it's like anything, when you start using something new, you're like, oh, doesn't make any sense. Now, I get asked some questions sometimes during trainings, and I'm flipping through there, and like, oh, this is secondhand nature. And you'll find that after you use it, and that's why I say the training environment's kind of a nice, easy way to practice it. Once you've done it a couple times, once you've made a couple of locations, a couple of users, you feel really comfortable with it. But it did take me a couple of times to do that, so I encourage you to try it out that way. All right, well, thanks for being my Valentine's. And if you need anything, just let us know.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.